Devin, if you didn't get paid to watch the Jets and the Dolphins, would you have watched the Jets and the Dolphins?
I would have probably caught a quarter or two there, and then I'd have found something else to do.
What stood out in that game?
I mean, it was obviously the Hail Mary interception, but just that phase, like we're watching the game and Tua throws an interception, pick six, the Jets go score. They miss the extra point. Miami gets the ball back. Tua throws another interception, only for the Jets to throw a Hail Mary that gets like three interceptions. And we looked at the clock. It was 58 seconds after the pick six. So all of this happened within a minute in a game. And then the rest of the game was just, it is what it is. There was not much excitement after that.
The Dolphins are interesting. I just don't know how good they are. Do you?
I think that's everybody's thing. Like, we know how they're going to perform against the teams that are subpar or below. They show up, they usually handle business, but against the better teams. And it's not that they go and get blown out. They just fall short against the better teams. And it makes you wonder, like, okay, do they really believe that they can get over the hump? If there's a game down the stretch in December against a good team, or they get in a playoff battle, have they built up enough equity as a team that they know, all right, we're in the middle of the fourth quarter, we're going to execute and win? I don't know if they have that belief about themselves yet.
Would you be scared, or how scared of Tua would you be as a defensive back?
I would be scared. From my time competing against Tua, for one, I never beat him at his time in Miami. But when he's in that offense, he's elite. And, I think he gets a lot of criticism, but the times he's been hurt and guys have had to step up and play in that offense, it hasn't looked the same. Whether they've had Tyreek or Jalen Waddle out there, other quarterbacks haven't been able to make that offense look the way that it looks when he's there. So if you have to play that offense, it's not an easy, like, we're going to go do this and do that and shut them out, even though I think defenses have played better, now going down the stretch. But it's still scary playing against an offense with Tua handling and running the show.
Okay, give me your perspective as a former defensive back of you're facing Jalen Hurts. What are you concerned about?
That he's going to make the winning play. I mean, for Buffalo and that defense, at one point, in the first half, like, Jalen Hurts had 50 yards passing. Like, we're watching the game and we're in studio, so we're still live and working. But me and Chris Sims are looking at the stats. I'm like, he has 50 yards passing. Then it gets up to, I think 170 yards. And you're like, Buffalo's defense is doing. But then you get to the clutch moments in the game. He's rolling left, 2 yards from out of bounds, throws a beautiful ball over top of Poyer and Hyde, and hits Zacchaeus in the back of the end zone. Like, that's a clutch play. So it reminded me a little bit of when you played like Tom Brady and those guys. They could have a bad day, but you always knew, like, if it got to that point in the game where you had to make a play or they had to make a play, more than likely they were going to make the play. And Jalen Hurts is starting to develop that this season.
But it feels like he knows he doesn't have to make every play. But Josh Allen, it feels like he thinks he has to make every play. So your game plan with Josh Allen, how different would that be facing him as opposed to Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, and it feels like that because it is that. Josh Allen does have to make those plays for this team to win. The scrambles, the 5 pump fakes and make a guy miss. Like, he has to make those plays where I think Jalen Hurts does. He goes into the game and he looks around him and he goes, hey, like, I have first team all pros at a lot of different positions on this team. I don't need to make that crucial mistake that hurts our team because somebody else will make the play, where Josh Allen is sitting there. And I thought he did a great job in the game. Like, he was patient. He took what the defense gave him. But then you still looked up and you were like, wow, this is still a close game. Like, they haven't put this team away. And some of that was, they miss a field goal. Like, all of those little things that show up put more and more pressure on Josh Allen. And we criticized the one interception he threw to Bradbury. But it's like he made one mistake in a game where he had to be great time after time. That's hard to do. And it stinks because they still haven't released some of that burden from Josh Allen still after all of these years with him performing so high.
We hear analysts say this about the receiver went the wrong way. Gabe Davis last night, as a defensive back, the receiver has the ability to go either left or right, like he can, and then the quarterback has to adapt? Like, how does that work where you're trying to cover somebody and he's kind of deciding what he wants to do based off how you're playing him?
Yeah, and on that play, you saw like Philadelphia was in blitz zero. They were in an all-out blitz. Everybody had a man, And you see Slade, they're up there trying to disrupt timing because they know the pressure is going to get there. And usually as an offense, you all have to see the picture the same way. And it was interesting because as we're watching and they're cutting away to the guys on the sideline, you see Gabe Davis and Diggs talking, and they're going back and forth. And then it looks like Gabe Davis says something to Diggs, and he goes, "Oh, damn." Almost like, "Oh, that's what happened? I kind of see why you broke outside because of what you thought the defensive back gave you." And to me, that's just one of those things where the blitz worked. The timing was thrown off. Josh Allen's thinking, "I'm just going to get this ball up." Gabe Davis is just going to run and go. And Gabe Davis is thinking, like, "I'm going to get off the line of scrimmage and I'm going to break out to the corner route." And that little bit of kind of undecisiveness, I think, was caused by the blitz. So Philadelphia's defense did a good job on that play.
How does it work getting Tom Brady's number when you play for the Patriots? Can you ask, or does Tom give you his number?
I asked, but I didn't ask right away. I didn't have his number for years, and then eventually I asked. But I do remember one time we had a big group chat. We were talking about something, and Adam Butler, who plays for the Las Vegas Raiders now, he was a young guy, and he saw Tom text, and he was like, "Tom Brady, is that you?" And Tom was like, "Yeah, it's me." He goes, Tom tells him to save his number, text him anytime. And like he was floored that now he had Brady's number.
But if you're asking Brady for his number, is it like asking a girl for her number?
It kind of feels like that. It's that, like, am I good enough to ask Tom Brady for, like, almost like, hey, is this girl just out of my league? Is she a little too cute? But Tom's super down to earth, so it always works out for guys.
Yeah, he could have given you a fake number. Let me ask you about the teams who can win a Super Bowl in the AFC. How many teams do you think truly can win a Super Bowl?
I mean, you obviously got to have Baltimore in there. Kansas City, because of Mahomes, I think they're always in it. And I would also throw Jacksonville in there. I think the way Jacksonville has performed, I think you got to put them in that category. And then out of the AFC East, like we talked about before, I'm just not sold on Miami yet, being able to be over that hump. But if you said to me right now, in a world, can you see I would say Miami's in that boat. And, I think for the AFC North, who had the strongest division, the injuries, I think, takes everybody else out of that category to be able to win a Super Bowl. But I think Mahomes is the wild card because if the team gets up to pace, he's the best quarterback to me in the NFL. And when you have that guy, I think you have the best odds to win a Super Bowl.
Okay, how many teams in the NFC can win a Super Bowl?
In the NFC, I think it's obviously Philadelphia. I think San Francisco. I think Dallas. I don't think Detroit is in that category. I know their record's still up there. They're still going to be one of the better teams. I'm not sold on Detroit being able to execute and win down the stretch to win a Super Bowl.
How many quarterbacks had a tell? You can say it now since you're not playing, but could you have an idea of that they're going to pass or he's going to throw it my way? Snap count, I mean, anything like that stand out with any quarterback?
Not to just say definitely like this guy, but to me it was always like a whole offense thing. It wasn't just like I remember we had a beat that we thought on Aaron Rodgers in 2018 December game in New England. So, everybody's wearing their pouches and we get in at halftime and they're like, Aaron Rodgers has his hands in his pouch. And then we takes him out right before he snaps the ball. And I'm kind of looking like, this is Mickey Mouse. Like, this is Aaron Rodgers. We're going to really go off. So we're doing these all out blitzes. Like, we have all these things. And in the first half, we're just looking at the play clock because Aaron Rodgers is good. And we go out there in the second half. He takes his hands out and he gives us the fake and he just smiles at us. We all take off full speed and he's ear to ear smiling like, I got y'all now. And for the rest of the game, that tail went just like that.
That's great.
That was always a scary thing against the really good guys.
That's great. If Bill Belichick called and said, Devin, do you think I should continue to coach? What would you say?
I would say yes. But
in New England.
We would have a long conversation about if it's in New England. I think, I remember, talking to Coach Shiano back at Rutgers, Greg Shiano, about when you're in one place for a long time, sometimes it's time for a change. I think we saw that with Brady a few years ago, goes down to Tampa, wins a Super Bowl. I think in New England, it could possibly be that time for Bill. So that first question I would answer in 5 seconds, but the rest of our conversation will probably go on for about 3 hours of trying to decide and talk about the pros and cons of being and staying in New England.
What if Robert Kraft called you and said, Devin, what do you think I should do at the coaching position?
It'd be the same thing. It'd be a long conversation because you don't just move on from Bill Belichick. I think we live in a world now that we go strictly off the results on the field right now. But my whole thing is if you fire Bill Belichick, who comes in next that you say, I guarantee this guy gives me a better chance or woman gives me a better chance next season to be better than Bill Belichick would. I think that's the hard thing. I think the ball is really in Bill's court of where he wants to be and what he wants to do. I think if I'm running the team and I give Mr. Kraft advice, I don't think it would ever be, hey, you need to move on and fire Coach Belichick.